Hey guys, welcome into another episode of From the Wing. I am Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We have a lot to talk about on today's show. There was some massive news that I was able to put out yesterday about the Pelicans' local TV deal. Bally Sports, you're done. You're gone. It's over. We're going to talk about the Olympics. I sat down and watched 3 of the 4 games, the quarterfinals games on Tuesday, and then I got a little bit busy. And then we're going to finish up with some stuff about Brandon Ingram and the Jazz and Lauri Markkanen doing what we thought he would do. Adam, let me give you some of the particulars on the Pelicans' new local TV deal. It is a multi-year deal with Fox 8, WVUE TV, and Gray. Pelicans are going to be in 11 different markets, at least throughout the Gulf South. This was something they kind of experimented with last year. They saw way bigger viewership on going over the air as opposed to Bally Sports. There's going to be a streaming product eventually. The Pelicans are working with the NBA to bring that to market. It is going to be priced better than Bally Sports Plus. It is hopefully going to work better than Bally Sports Plus. I don't think it can work as worse. I don't think that's possible. This was something, that's been a trend over the past year. We saw the Suns, the Jazz do this last year. They got really nice spikes on their local TV viewership. What are your thoughts on the Pelicans' new deal with Fox and Gray?
Had to happen. Finally, relief. Like we've been talking about access to Pelicans games for ages. And anybody that's watched this team religiously for as long as you have locally, we haven't had a great local viewing experience since CST. And we kind of miss that. And it's, we have the geographic restrictions on watching, which, there's going to be some growing pains. Like, while this is essentially a great first step. It is an announcement of intent. It is an announcement of correct intent. And we're going to jump into part of it right out the gate. But there's going to be building blocks here. There's a lot of work to do. This is not going to be as simple as last year, there was kind of no plan. So Gray just takes the Bally's product and just puts it on air. Production and everything was all identical. It felt the same. And we had different mic covers.
And it was basically, let's see what the numbers are. It was hey, this is just only be a little extra work. Let's see what the numbers are over the air compared to Bally's, and they're way higher.
Yeah. So this finally gets us, we've nerded out over this. I think it's safe to say we've probably covered this more than anybody else around here. This is what needed to happen. We've talked about it for over a year. We've both been proponents that this is the way it has to go. We've hyped up what the Jazz and what the Suns have done in the same manner. And Gale now gets to be the first of the non-new money small markets to do this, which is kind of cool. A little small feather in their cap. Pelicans not exactly known as being the fast movers of small markets, but they get to say they went first of the teams that were remaining. And there's, like I said, work to be done. We need to build out a streamer. We need to build out production. Bally's really struggled to actually put games on air to start the season last year. So we need to not have those hiccups. A lot of work to do, but this is the right thing. My one little thing is I'm still going to be a little bent out of shape for the folks in other markets that will not get this broadcast over the main feeds of the stations in their area. So you're still going to have some geographic pain in the beginning. But it will go away eventually. We will get there. We are going to go in the right direction finally.
Okay. So I think an important point here is, yes, it is a partnership with Fox 8 and many other major local TV stations, Gray-owned stations in places like Baton Rouge, Alexandria, Shreveport, Monroe, Jackson, Meridian, Hattiesburg, Mobile. I always say that wrong. But a lot of these main stations, they're not going to be able to clear programming for all 82 games.
Right.
Fox 8, for example, this is my guess. Nothing is official yet, but I think Fox 8 will be able to clear programming for 10, 15 games, no more than that, just because they can't take out their local news and swap in the Pelicans 75 nights a year. So they're going to be select nights when the Pelicans games are shown on Fox 8, and the majority of nights the Pelicans games are going to be shown over the air on substations. That means Bounce TV. There was 3 of the games that aired on Bounce last year that caused a lot of frustration among the fan base. I think a huge part of this from the Pelicans and the media too is just educating and training people on how to get Bounce TV, like how to access that basically. I mean, I was able to access it last year. I've had this digital antenna for a long time. That's what I use to watch football. It's like $20 on Amazon. I mean, you can go to Best Buy and get one. You just plug it right into the back of the TV. It sits behind the TV. I don't even notice it. But there's gonna have to be like an effort to show people how to get Bounce on their TV. Really, I don't think it's difficult, but there's got to be a need to be an educational component in the lead up to the season, because a lot of these games are going to be on the substations, which are free but trickier to access than Fox 8.
So what you're saying is there's a prime opportunity for a Pelicans themed HD antenna giveaway, where maybe the little circle or something is like a Pierre head or something like that, or like has some wings on it. That's what you're saying. There's a branding opportunity here.
If there is not a Pelicans TV antenna giveaway, that is a missed opportunity, in my opinion.
I mean, talking about flying over airways, like this, it takes care of itself. This is not hard to do. Yeah, that's the struggle. And like last year, like we said, there wasn't as much of a plan. This came at us kind of like Pizza Hut style. It was hot and ready. Like we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it for a handful of games. Here it is. Oh, hell, here's the first game. What do we do? And it was like, we were getting like tweets and like a partial news article that was like, hey, here's where it's going to be. And the game's in like a day. So you didn't exactly educate people. You educated them kind of in real time. Easy for me. I'm using the NBA app for most of my access and I'm doing fine. And then I'm in the New Orleans area where it's also not that much of a burden. It's the other locales where it gets tougher. But all that being said, this is now a plan. This is being done proactively. They have some demo experience in it, and it leads to a place of future planning, future success, a pathway that is digestible. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if anybody remembers when Bally's came out with that price point and what they were trying to sell you and what the price points of these services look like for the teams locally. I think we're going to be pretty happy with it.
Well, I looked this stuff up. Suns Live, the streaming product that the Suns gave their fans last year, $110 for the entire year to watch all the Suns games. Jazz Plus, $125. So, $110, $125 for a streaming product that, as far as I can tell, actually worked to watch all the team's games. I hope that there is something similar here. I think that is fair. I mean, that's cheaper than Bally Sports Plus and a more reliable product. I think that would be a good solution for Pelicans fans. And I just want to drill down on the reach component, which is really the biggest reason they did this. They knew there's just not that many eyeballs watching the games in the New Orleans domestic market area on a night-to-night basis. This has been a problem for years. I pulled the Nielsen data after the season because I wanted to see like how many people are actually watching these games. The 69 Bally Sports games last year, there was about 13,000 TV households in the New Orleans DMA who were watching these games on a night-to-night basis. The 7 games on Fox 8 did more than 46,000 TV households, 260% increase. And look, you can say, well, there's only going to be 10 or 15 games on Fox 8, Christian. Like, how did Bounce compare? The 3 Bounce games, 18,000 TV households. So, like, look, I think the right way to think about this and the way I'm thinking about this, the Jazz increased their local TV audience 39% last year compared to the year before. The Suns went up 69% last year to the year before. I think it is within the realm of possibility and realistic for the Pelicans to double their TV audience this year. And that is why this deal was made, to get more eyeballs on the TV product night in and night out.
Yeah, it's not as much about the raw count as much as the count being an indicator of the factor of increase. You highlighted it really well. Like Nielsen ratings, we can have a whole debate about how useful those are going to be in the future. There's a missing streaming component there that we're going to get more of in the future. This is about like old school. Is it being broadcast to a television that's on that channel right now? That's, and Nielsen families and all those things. But that estimate is still, even in bounce, which we talked about the difficulties there, was still almost 30% more than what was happening for Bally's. So if you're already there with lack of education, with kind of throwing it together at the end of the season for like an odd slot of games. Oh, and by the way, we like kind of lost all the games that we put on TV. It was just a win. It was a win across the board in terms of exposure. It's the bet that you already saw really smart teams make ahead of time. And like, look, you just don't have a plan. The RSNs are dead. Like the idea that you're just going to keep trying to stay with Bally's, there's no reason at this point to continue to trust Diamond Sports while they're trying to work their way out of Chapter 11 and being allowed to reorganize again. You just shouldn't be involved with them anymore. So yeah, it's clear as day. They got more exposure. They got it on a whim. Now they get to plan how to have that exposure, what to do with it. And it's just kind of an easy call to make at this point. If you're willing to give up essentially whatever this year's single year check from Bally's might have been.
So I have some details on this. There's a lot of details in this story I was able to break yesterday. I got some of the timeline. Diamond Sports is still in the middle of bankruptcy proceedings. Like I think people are still looking at Diamond, which owned Bally. The Bally name is going to change, but think of Bally and Diamond as one and the same. People still don't know what's going to happen there. They don't know if Diamond is going to exist 6 months from now. People still don't know. And so in July, the Pelicans were told that they were one of 5 teams that Diamond planned to drop in their attempt to remain financially viable. The Pelicans said, okay, we're going to go talk to some other local TV partners. They, had ongoing conversations with the Gray people. They've had a long relationship with Gray. I was told that over the weekend, Diamond went back to the Pelicans and they gave them an offer. Like it looked like Diamond was going to not be able to like move forward with the Pelicans. And last weekend, something changed. Diamond came back to the Pelicans with an offer, and the Pelicans had until Monday basically to make a decision on the Diamond thing. I was told the Diamond offer was 20% higher than what the Pelicans are going to get with Gray. And the Pelicans looked at it on Monday and said, this 20% more is not worth it if we're going to sacrifice this reach. We want the reach and the partnership with Gray. And I popped the news Tuesday, and that was how it went down.
Pretty exciting to be pod homies with the guy breaking monstrous cable TV change news. Yeah, so not that everybody wants to know like the court proceedings, but I've been following this just as a commoner for a couple of years, and the bankruptcy judge keeps allowing Diamond Sports extensions and the ability to come back and represent evidence that they are trying to reconsolidate themselves and cut costs in order to not finalize Chapter 11. They're getting extension after extension after extension. They've gotten a small debt, essentially a debt buy up by Amazon. And so like that seemed like it portrayed something like Amazon was going to like, oh, okay, they're going to jump in and maybe just operate what the rights that they have. But then Chapter 11 keeps going and they keep getting extensions. And Gray is like being afforded, or not Gray, Bally's is being afforded, Diamond Sports is being afforded the opportunity to come back to court in 3 months and 4 months and present why they're not going to run out of money and why they will be able to hold their debt load. And this isn't even about them becoming solvent. It's just about being able to pay off their annual debt to stay alive. They got it. Like the Pelicans answer is very obvious. 20%, it would have needed to be 50 to 100% more than the offer I got from Gray for me to even entertain that, because it's still tumbling downhill. And there is still not, even if they get out of Chapter 11, what is the reason to believe that that's going to be the better course? And there's not a lot of hope for that.
Yeah, I mean the Pelicans got back into business with Diamond with Bally in 2022 when there were signs that there were some serious financial issues there, and it almost immediately went very poorly. I think that the Diamond declared bankruptcy like months later, and so two years later, with a chance to just end that relationship, they're like, "Look, we're not going to stick around to see how this plays out. We're we're breaking up with you. I mean, maybe you're going to break up with us. That hasn't officially happened yet. We don't know, but it's over, and they're going with the over the air station. It makes a ton of sense. I think another interesting aspect of this that I put in the article that I think was new information. The Pelican and the Gray are talking about launching a sports only over the air TV network. I was told that this would live on the substations, not just in New Orleans, but Baton Rouge, all those markets I talked about earlier, and it's gonna, from what I can tell, it's gonna be called the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Pelicans games could be there, but also like Birmingham Squadron games. There's a world of high school games. You can watch your high school football on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Like a lot of the Pelicans content, like the squad will air there, podcast and that type of thing. And to me, that sounds a lot like a regional sports network on cable, but the difference is this is free. You can get this with a digital antenna. Anybody can get this for free.
It's CST, but you don't have to have the extended cable package. It's CST's back. Can they just can they do us a favor and whenever they come out with a graphic, it sounds like you made it sound like it's going to be called like GSN or something because they're always so boring with this. I feel like I just need some little homage to the former CST in there, like the color scheme, or maybe some resemblance to the font. It'll give us warm and fuzzies a little bit because I think we remember it fondly for the most part. Yeah, this is it. Look, this is all we want. Louisiana is a pretty easy place to entertain. We just don't want your trash that we don't actually want to watch. If you give people high school content and you give them squadron games and you give them maybe you can get some odd sports coverage in there, like a little ESPN Ocho flavor, some weird local stuff, like a LARPing tournament or some weird stuff like that. Look, it could get real fun. I'd casually throw that on. Look at all these fast channels. I'm using these fast channels on my TV now. This not even cable thing that has reruns of Baywatch all day. Sometimes I just turn on one of those stations, like the one that'll do Top Gear UK and run it all day, and I'll just let it run in the background of my day because hey, casually look up, oh, there's a laugh. I would happily do that with the Gulf Sports Entertainment Network.
And you know what people in Louisiana like to do? They like to watch live sports comparatively to the rest of the country, so long as it is accessible. I think the numbers have shown this over and over again. I don't know if you saw this, but about a week ago, maybe less than that, some of the ratings, all the ratings in the United States of okay, which markets are tuned into the Olympics the most. And I think New Orleans was the Olympics were getting the second highest ratings in New Orleans of any major market in the United States. I mean, think about that. Think about that. It's all the major markets in the United States, New Orleans is second in terms of the percentage of the population who's watching this stuff on TV.
Super Bowls. This has been common for my entire measured cable viewing lifetime. We are always in the top 5 markets for every major national and international sporting event. We'll pop up there if they gave us US World Cup viewing stats, which we might get this next go around because it's going to be a North American hosting, but we don't normally get those. But if we got those, New Orleans would pop up in there too. We're great at watching sports on TV. It's hot as hell outside. I went outside at 6:30 last night with my kid and it was still 94. So yeah, you throw anything on and I will stay in my AC and enjoy myself.
Dude, I let the dog out last night at 10 o'clock. And I mean, obviously it's very dark and I'm like, how is it still hot at 10 o'clock? The sun has been down for 2 hours.
A brisk 89 degrees.
Yeah. I hate going out there and my AC units sound like they're just dying at 10 o'clock at night. It's 10 o'clock.
Squealing, screaming. I'm struggling to get the program schedule in on the upstairs and the downstairs. I'm really struggling to get those honed in right now. That end of the night when it's trying to catch up and get the temp down, because like, you know, kiddo's got to come sleep upstairs, try and cool it off like an hour before he goes down. It ain't working right now. It's working overtime, and it's still like 76 up here. It's not going good. Not going good. But yeah, we'll watch anything rather than go outside. Like put a beer in my hand, like say this one, and throw anything on television, and I will take it.
Last thing I got in the TV deal, I got a text, and it was the Adam Silver meme where it's like, get ready to learn so-and-so, buddy. And it said, get ready to learn Bounce TV, buddy. And I really laughed because I know Bounce TV, but I need everybody to learn Bounce TV. And look, as the season gets closer, I'm going to try to do my part and write about it, talk about it as much of like, this is how you get it. It's free. Yes, it is a little bit of a pain to like go out and have to get a digital antenna. But yes, I am getting ready to learn Bounce TV, Adam Silver. My body's ready.
Shout out to my dog, Will Ogburn, who may not have sent that to you himself, but I know that he is with that meme in spirit.
Okay. I don't know who created it. I just got said it, and I laughed really hard.
When I tell you that as soon as I saw it, that is immediately who I thought of, because it's his kind of joke, and he would definitely make it about this. So I was like, did we get like some Will inception? Will is also the podcast host of Saturday Down South, popular SEC podcast. So yeah, he would make that joke. That's immediately who I thought of, and I laughed extra because I was like, he may as well have texted this to me.
All right, Adam, moving on to the Olympics. I got to watch 3 of the 4 games yesterday. I unfortunately was not able to watch US Brazil because I was kind of dealing with the local TV stuff in the afternoon. I was not surprised. I was excited to see that we just kicked the crap out of them and no drama at all. And we're moving on to the semifinals. Yeah. Serbia, USA, Germany, France. There's a lot of different directions we can go. But look, I saw all 5 of the US tune-up games. I've watched all their games except for yesterday's. This USA team is awesome. It is freaking awesome. LeBron, probably still the best player on the team somehow. I think the decision to worry about fit, it got talked about a lot and criticized, and I think is proving to be a good decision of, hey, let's go with Derek White and Drew Holiday, and these guys will fill in the gaps, and if they don't play, they're not going to be mad about it. And our bench, man, our bench is just incredible. And it's like, how are the other teams going to feel when, I don't know, they're down 7, and then Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo are checking in?
It's brutal out there. It's quite a time when you can casually go out and get Cameroonian national Joel Embiid to be your starting center to deal with all of these Euro bigs that you're going to have to deal with. Even though, I'm very torn if I'm a 76ers fan watching this. I'm like, in one sense, I'm happy that he's working out in the offseason. In another sense, I am very, very afraid for his knees. But we just have an embarrassment of riches. I'm a little sad that you didn't mention the first quarter against Puerto Rico, but I'll let it go because our guy was lighting it up for a second, and he ended up being the leading scorer for his country, even though it, middle of the second quarter, it really went to hell. But that first quarter, he was living the dream, baby. He was the leading scorer as Puerto Rico was leading U.S. It was a good time. Wasn't a long time. I think the most compelling game was the Australia game. Australia is like an interesting international team to track. So is Germany.
You're talking about Australia, Serbia, right?
Yeah. The Australia-Serbia game was like the most compelling game that has happened recently.
Yeah,
US hasn't had much in the way of a compelling game. It's just been like, how did the starters look? What happened? When did Tatum play? What happened when the backups came in? How's Anthony Edwards fitting? And everything's kind of just like meshing together. They have an embarrassment of riches. Serbia, Australia. Look, we can't tell you why Joker doesn't get like as heavily utilized in the first half as he does in the second half. But, it's been fun to watch Australia over the years and see like the Patty Mills international experience just continue to keep happening, where he just like He's incredible in international ball. Like Will Magne, guy who I convinced myself was going to come into the NBA and be like a roaming shot blocker. Jock Landale out there tearing stuff up. It's just a bunch of dudes. They just put out like a lot of dudes that are NBA ballers, and they played together a really, really long time. Brought Serbia to the wire, and yeah, they rode Joker home, and he got him to OT and got him out of there.
I agree, man.
Wild
I mean,
stuff.
just an incredible game. Serbia falls behind by 24 points in the first half. Like they looked cooked, dead in the water. I mean, it looked like Patty Mills was going to outscore Serbia by himself. He was that hot. Serbia's defense was that bad in the first half too. I think Serbia guarded way better. I mean, there's just urgency from them in the second half, and I agree. It's been completely bizarre at times how much they don't play through Jokic. They're treating him like he's just another guy, and I don't like totally grasp why that's happening. I don't know if that's just like the coach's mindset. I don't know if it's because Jokic, sometimes he hasn't participated in all the international stuff, right? He shows up for the Olympics. I think he skipped the world, like some of the other FIBA stuff with them. I don't know if that's like a way of being like, we're not going to run everything through you if you won't participate in everything. I don't totally understand why, but in the second half, they got it because they were going to freaking die. I mean, it was clear. It's like, this is going to be a horrible loss in the quarterfinals if we just don't play through this guy. And I mean, look, Jokic was amazing. And that play where he blocked it off the rim, I'm still not used to that, where you can go and like bat the ball when it's on the rim. And I was like, what the hell?
That's always the weirdest part of this, is adjusting to all of the contact rules with the ball in and out of the cylinder. We forget about it every time, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that's right, it's different here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't understand. Look, Euro bigs and Euros in general, when they go and play international, it's one thing to like not come for different competitions. When he's there, he still plays a boatload of minutes. So the greatest basketball player currently in the world at this moment is playing for you in your team where he is abundantly better than everyone near him. And punishment? Like, maybe it's just like a little bit of deference, because like as great as Joker is, he isn't like pretty respectful and doesn't really like, he barks at officials, but he doesn't tend to really bark at like coaches and other players that he plays with that much. Like I think he does, like he plays like if we were, I'm gonna shout out Jeremy Wilson again, because this is gonna be a wrestling reference. If I had to compare Jokic to anybody, I would compare him to our dude Gunther in the WWE. His like whole wrestling persona is that he is bringing back professionalism and polish to wrestling. You're going to respect the art, and he stands very firmly, and he's very like unemotional. He's very intense about it. And like Joker's kind of got that approach to basketball. Like, I play this way. You can't hang with me. I don't really need much of the extracurricular stuff. Yes, I will whine to referees a lot in a way that you're going to, get annoyed with. I will bleed from my shoulders incessantly, but it's just so weird not to just give him the ball in the first half. There was no reason to go to OT if they would have just like used him more in the first half, and he just kind of seemed like the B or C option at times. And you're just like, what are we doing? Why are you guys like, they went -12 when he went out of the game. Like, it's very apparent what you need to do. And they just didn't do it.
The on-off splits with Jokic in this tournament have been crazy, as they are in the NBA. It's going to be U.S. and Serbia in the semifinal. The U.S. has already beat Serbia twice, basically by 20 points. The games were not close. I mean, I still think the U.S. is going to win this game, but I think if there's an upset, the formula is Jokic destroys Embiid, goes nuts, and Serbia shoots like 55% from three. Like, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take Jokic having an A game for him, and it's also going to take his teammates just shooting the heck out of the ball from three.
Yeah. Like we said, there's just an absurd pile of talent that can adapt and be played in such a way. Like, nobody has really been the frowning, fretting child. Like, we had the one game where Tatum didn't play, and it like people tried to make it a thing. Tatum didn't make it a thing. And then, Kerr immediately addressed that he's going to play next game, comes out, plays well. They clearly, like, this team has decided we're going to do this. When it's needed to be LeBron, it's been LeBron. When they've needed to go to Joel, they have. When they needed to play Derek White and Drew Holiday, they did. They're just doing whatever they need to win these games. And if that's how everybody's going to treat it and they're going to be this intense about it, hard to believe anybody's going to have the secret sauce to deal with it, because it's just, I mean, their worst player is better than your second best player.
Team USA look like they're having so much fun. Like all these guys look like they're having a blast. Like they're not letting, the playing stuff time turn into drama. There's no BS with this team. Like it seems like they're all hanging out. Like every picture is them like messing around. Anthony Edwards is telling Olympian ping pong players, "Yeah, I could get a point off of you." It seems like they're having a blast. I mean, even Kevin Durant. Like Kevin Durant's been coming off the bench. He was injured in all those tune-up games. I mean, dude, that performance in Serbia in the group stage was just like, oh my God, this guy.
And then very intense photo, everybody sitting on the steps, and it looks organic. It feels organic. It feels like they're just having a good time. It is reminiscent of Dream Team in Spain. Like it just seems like they're having a good time. Seems like
I just don't see anybody beating this team. They're too good. They haven't let any of the BS seep in. They understand, like, look, there's going to be sacrifice at some points here. Like it seems like things are going really, really well. I've just enjoyed watching him. This has been great to see. And look, I know like the AAU system and the way America is developing its players now, like there's criticism, and I think some of that criticism is legit, but like, guess what? No other country in the world even comes close to having the amount of very good basketball players that we have. Like the depth is not even close.
Yeah, the thing that we criticize AAU about is like everybody's the ball dominant star, regardless of what size and skill set you have. That's what we do with kids. Everybody's the shooter. Well, the benefit of that is when you pump out a bunch of dudes who are anywhere from like 6'7" to 6'10", when you pump out 15 of those bad boys and all of them can handle a little bit, that works pretty good. They're just, they have modern skills, and the FIBA style is not a foreign thing to them. I think there are still guys on this team that remember what happened a few Olympics ago when they weren't ready. It's not that far removed. None of them ever want to have to be a redeem team again. And I think that is still apparent to this group. And so like you said, none of the BS has touched them. It shouldn't be that entertaining, but maybe we get a real savant performance from Joker and we get something interesting here. But our guess would be not, and it's not even coming from like an arrogant place. It's just like, hey, there's not a lot you can do with that. Anthony Edwards coming off the bench sinking threes.
The Olympics are so fun. Olympic basketball is so fun because in some context, stars have to play like role players. Like Devin Booker in some ways is playing like a role player for Team USA, and he's doing it very well. And then NBA role players have to play like stars. Like Patty Mills, played like a star for Australia for a lot of that Serbia game. It's just so fun to me to see these guys in such different roles than they're playing in the NBA. I just love seeing who can adapt to those different contexts. And I think the Team USA stuff makes me think that, I mean, the word people use, which I don't know, I hate when we use like SAT words for basketball, like heliocentrism, but portability, just like the ability of like put this player in a different situation and he can adapt well. I think that's generally an underrated quality. Like Durant and Brandon Ingram, like they get compared a lot, and I see it, but I'm also just like, you can play Durant in any context. Like Westbrook, that's easy. He can make it work. Plop him on the Golden State Warriors, that's fine. He can make it work. Ingram is not like that, right? Like a lot of the conditions have to be just right for him to thrive. I think that if you want to like describe it in one word, portability is an underrated quality.
We tried to call the dude the Slim Reaper, and he told us to call him the Servant. I mean, you can start and stop it right there. He has been a deferential player his entire career, even at the absolute peak of his powers. We're sitting there like, go drop 40. And he's like, I'll take it where it comes and I'll feed everybody else and I'll play defense. And you're like, but what if you lose the game because you didn't go for 40? Like, and that's what you want from everybody. And that's that thing that every once in a while Durant will lean into team basketball that way. That's been a feature of his game his entire career, all the way back to Texas. They were just games you like want him to take over. And he's like, look, I got stars on my team and they're open, so I'm going to give them the ball. And part of it's playing with Russell Westbrook for half your career. But yeah, I hope we get some suspense, maybe like third quarter suspense, and then they just close it out so that at least it's like, some watchable stuff. But yeah, this is like, it kind of humanizes some of the stars to see him like in the smaller role and not torn up about it, because we watch him in the NBA and we watch guys being like kind of whiny prima donnas a lot when things don't go their way. And that's not what we're seeing from the guys that are taking back seats on USA right now. And it's just a cool difference to see when, I'm programmed to wait for them to try and like buy a call and then cry for the next 3 minutes when they don't get
it. Big development in the quarterfinal round too. France, I didn't look at like who was actually favored, but I'm going to assume Canada was favored against France, even though France had the home crowd helping them out. France looked really bad in the lead up to the quarterfinals. They made a huge lineup change. They were starting Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama together. They put Rudy Gobert on the bench. They said, look, we're only going to have 1-5 out there. They actually started Yabusele at power forward next to Wembanyama, and the move worked. They beat Canada. Jamal Murray has looked awful, by the way, and that's a little bit concerning. But there's some weirdness. There's some weirdness after the game where Rudy Gobert is saying, hey, look, I had like a procedure done on my finger, and that was part of the reason I went to the bench. And France's coach is saying, well, he had an MRI. That's true, but there was no procedure. And we made this change basically because we only wanted one true center in the starting lineup, and I chose Victor Wembanyama.
Rudy can just... this stuff is just, it floats around him. It'll float around him for an eternity. We will never change our minds about this guy. We will never, ever, ever change our minds about this guy
and he's
as
so
an
good,
American population.
All this stuff just keeps happening.
It can't escape. He just can't get away from it. He's an incredible defensive player. There's a very, very, very clear issue at times with the fact that he is not versatile offensively. The fact that he is, we could say this for years, he is lazy in his screen game sometimes. He is lazy sealing guys when he gets past the defender. He is bad catching the ball on the move. He basically needs to catch the ball in a finishing position. If he has to do anything with it, it could go real bad. And for a guy that's that big and that dominant defensively to be inept in those positions offensively, and to like cause 2 years of drama that essentially accuse like Donovan Mitchell of just not being his friend, is like, it's pretty brutal. Toss that with COVID microphones and now a phantom limb procedure on his finger.
Look, I try not to generalize too much. It gets you in trouble. Takeaway from this Olympics: the French are just weird people. They just are. Did you watch the opening ceremony? Have you paid attention to Rudy Gobert's career? They're just doing a lot of weird stuff.
That's shout out to our guy Gershon though. Yabusele, good to see him thriving out there. I had to learn some names. I think like France, the exciting thing about France is like the next Olympics, all these young kids that everybody was excited about in like this draft and next year's draft, that's going to start to be the national team. And then they'll really be cooking on a national level. Wemby will be mature. You'll have tons and tons of guards and wing play. It'll be interesting then. Right now, it's a bit raw. I don't think a lot of people, I think Canada should have won that game. And it was interesting to see a tweet where it's like, I saw a tweet that was like, tough out for Canada or something like that. And it was like, but major future ahead. I was like, Canada's major future was like right now. It was right now.
Focused on, what we're focused on immediately after this game, the present. Yeah. Let's like talk about what the disappointing result that literally just happened on the biggest stage.
Yeah, you're supposed to probably be in the final, and now you're not. You're gone. Anyway, all right. I think we're good on Olympics. Do we have anything else to hit on Olympics?
French are weird. No, that's it.
Look,
Okay.
I enjoyed Paris a lot. I do think having the idea to swim in the Seine was a terrible idea, and they should have bailed on that and not given people E. coli. I think that was a pretty obvious call, and and it's not working out. You got dudes like we're going. This Olympics has been really funny. We got dudes puking in the water. We got a pole vaulter, struggling with more than one pole. We've got lots of things, just lots of things. Also, just shout out to US track real quick. The greatest dramas that have been happening have been these finishes of these track events. Today, the steeplechase, the 100-meter, like this stuff is getting
the 1500 yesterday,
the 1500 Hawker, former Taysom Hill teammate. I think it's Mason Hawker. Dude just throws out, like, where does that last 200 meters come from? He just lit himself on fire and snuck past everybody. This is crazy, crazy stuff from these track events. That's been really, really cool.
It's been Cole Hawker was the man bun fella who, with the finishing cake on the 1500.
Right.
Amazing stuff. I agree. This has been a blast, man. I feel like the Olympics has so much juice this year. Like, people are just like tuned in. It's been great.
Oh yeah. And I mean, like, my new favorite person, like, I love watching like the big meaty guys throw heavy objects through the air. And then I'm stunned to find a svelte, like skinny, but large, Canadian comes out there and on his first throw, just throws like 9 meters farther than everyone else by spinning twice as fast as everyone else. And he's losing 60 pounds to everyone else who's throwing. And I'm just like, how in the hell did he throw this hammer this far? I can't believe what I saw. And he just moves so quickly. And he, like, apparently he looks like a very particular part of Canada. But if you looked at him, you would guess he's Australian because of like the hairdo, the facial hair and everything. It is quite intriguing to see, like, 300-pound dude, 300-pound dude, 300-pound dude. Wait, that guy's like 260. And there it goes. And you're like, all right, tiny guys creating momentum, letting stuff fly. Sure.
All right, let's finish up with some Ingram, some Jazz talk, and how they might be connected or how they might not be connected. I wrote something for Monday on NOLA.com that basically said two things. Everything I was hearing, and this had been reported elsewhere, I think this was just kind of the word in NBA circles. The Jazz were going to give Lauri Markkanen a raise and also extend him. That happened on Wednesday. 5 years, $238 million. That's the raise and extension figure there per Woj. This means that Lauri cannot be traded during the season. He even had a quote in this ESPN article, basically like, yeah, this takes some weight off my shoulders. I know I'm going to be a Utah Jazz for the entirety of the 2024-2025 season. This is a place he wants to be. So that the Jazz are going to be in Lauri Markkanen business for a while. I mean, very good player, makes movement shooter, dunks a ton, like supercharged Trey Murphy in some ways. And Trey is a couple years younger. I mean, Trey is going to get better. I also said in this article that posted Monday, the Pelicans have 14 players on standard contracts. They can take this roster into the season if they want to, but I don't think that they will, mainly because of the center stuff. And I talked in there, what we talked about in the last episode. I'd heard that the Jazz were a team potentially interested in Ingram. Well, Shams Charania went on Pat McAfee show, and he basically said, hey, look, Brandon is planning on going to mini camp in California later this month with the Pelicans. Like, they're having a players only camp. I've heard Brandon's like working with Pelicans employees, right? Or, Pelicans staff right now, just like, strength conditioning, yada, yada, yada. So like he's part of a fabric of the team right now. I guess what I want to ask you, like, where are you at in terms of the percentages that Brandon will be a Pelican on the first day of the regular season next year or this upcoming season versus he'll be on a different team?
I mean, if the situation with the roster was any different, I would probably be very low. I just can't believe that they're actually going to start the season without a tangible starting center. And I I'm as much of a fit proponent with Daniel Tice and have probably been tracking Carlo Matkovic for too long, but you can't put them in that spot. And you also, like, in today's NBA, you can't live small either. Like, you don't have the requisite players to live that small. You can finish small, but you can't play 25 minutes small. So, when the Jazz thing gets brought up, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I'm looking at the Jazz. I'm like, I mean, I like some of the stuff. Like, you guys clearly hit something with George, and I didn't like George. And Sexton and Clarkson are both like really competent guards. You still have some stuff on there that's interesting. Kessler kind of takes a step back. Collins has kind of always been this middling player who's not really a power forward. He's not really a center. And like, just kind of hasn't felt like he's fit on any of the teams he's been on in like the last 5 years, and was like trade fodder for all of them. But like, a move involving Brandon Ingram to the Jazz, retaining Lowry, just didn't make a ton of sense to me because, like, how much better does that make you? However, they didn't get rid of the guards. And I think if they wanted to be a tank, I think it would have been important to get rid of at least one of Sexton or Clarkson. I think having competent backcourt play has been a prime feature of the wins that they've gotten over the last 2 years. I think Will Hardy is a really, 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 really fantastic coach, like potentially a top 5 coach in the NBA. And they also have like interesting young development players. Taylor Hendricks started to come along at the end of last year. Why am I this up on the Jazz roster? Mainly because of fantasy basketball, where I just spend every year trying to beat Mason. But I kind of get it. There are like 5 teams that are really, really locked into being in the tank next year. And they are not the Jazz. So when you're the Jazz, the Bulls, the Spurs, this decision's tough because Brooklyn just strategically went down. Like they are trying to suck. The Pistons took on bad money intentionally, put the neon sign up, said, "Come help us out. You help us, we'll help you." In addition to that, like, you still got Washington. They added stuff. They added really raw young stuff. They're not making some kind of giant jump. So when you look at them, you look at the completely unserious Charlotte Hornets. The Trailblazers are still out there and may very well find a new home for DeAndre Ayton at some point. I think the Jazz are looking at being the 6th or 7th best team. And then you're staring at, like, even with flattened odds, you're talking about a 12% chance to jump up into the top 3. This is a pretty loaded year. How different is 5 from 10 or 11? You're in the Salt Lake City area, Utah market. Can you continue to be bad this many years in a row, especially when you have like some competent players and a great coach? So if you can get a lower than maybe like perceived market 2 years ago, lower market value for Brandon Ingram, even if it's just a rental on an expiring, I kind of get it. Because you can definitely be better. You can be a play-in team, and maybe that's better. I think there's a lot of reasons that could be better. And I didn't quite get it at first, but I kind of do now.
I mean, a playing team will have fans showing up in your building with juice generally in February and March. I mean, we've seen it at times in New Orleans. I mean, maybe this past year there wasn't as much energy in the building, but like it keeps your fan base engaged. They won. They went from being a perennial playoff team with Donovan Mitchell, then they won 37 games, then they won 31 games. To your point, they have one of the best coaches in the NBA. You've got a very good player in Lauri Markkanen. I mean, look, bottoming them out. There's no guarantee, right? I mean, I know Cooper Flag is there, and man, would he hit that market? Would he hit that market? But look, there's no guarantee. So I don't know what they're gonna do. It's gonna be really interesting to see. I think an important point in all of this is Lauri Markkanen did not put pen to paper until August 7th, And if he had done this on August 6th, that would have made him eligible to be traded February 6th, the last day of the NBA trade deadline, right? Like this, the timing of this was very intentional. I think Brandon Ingram, like if he signs for that full max number, he can't be traded for a year. But our friend Schmidt Dua was all over this. He had this on Twitter today. I thought it was a very good point. There's the shape of a deal where Brandon could agree to an extension and still be traded during this season. He could sign a 3-year extension that would effectively pay him like 43, 45, 47 million. You know, like the life of the deal with this year included would be about 172 million. That's a very nice payday, and the Pelicans could still trade him basically at any time. So if the fit wasn't working out, you know, they could have him signed to this deal and then look to move him during the season. I think the Pelicans would like to extend Brandon at a number like that. Like that makes a lot of sense. That would give them optionality during the season. You know, I think that's part of the reason why it's just like, yeah, but we don't want to do 210 million or whatever.
Right. You've at that point you have manifested some value. You have recreated the asset a little bit, and they don't hate the guy, and he doesn't hate them. So like it makes sense if you could find a value that both of you can be happy with, even in the short term. Like that, the thing about the like all of the posturing with saying like Brandon's part of our team and we're excited to be a part of to have him, and he's excited to be a part of what we're doing. The thing about those statements, even though they're typical posturing, is they're also true. And so like they just have a good relationship, and if they can find that value, that's great.
I think two things can be true. The Pelicans, look, they absolutely understand their team does not make sense, and their center rotation is not where it needs to be. But they also like Brandon Ingram as a person and as a player.
Yeah, and so it may just be something where the team's imperfect for a little while, and they need to game plan for like an adjustment midseason. And they tell themselves that embarrassment of talent and roster fit be damned. Embarrassment of talent carries me through the front half, and then I make my needed change to really like tighten things up by the end of the year. Do either of us think they should be kind of gambling with that kind of basketball fit questions in such an important year? I don't think either one of us think so, but we understand, like, especially in the market as it is now, in the double apron world with like these actual penalties. It's tougher to move higher salaries. People are not rushing like in 2016. People are not rushing to throw gargantuan money at the wrong guy. You know, Minnesota, everything we've heard recently was that they were trying to move Cat. After all that, they were trying to do it, and hard to do. It's just really, really hard to do, and that's going to be a feature. One of the things I was most interested in with this Lowry deal, or the detail that I was waiting to hear, the Jazz had the ability to change, like, part of his total income on this extension was going to be about the raise in year one. When you get an extension, when you get a raise, renegotiation, and an extension, you're tacking on 4 years. That first year jump can only be 40% of what you currently make. So they have to give him the raise. Then he can have the 40% jump, up to a 40% jump. And then you can have up to 8% raises in each year thereafter. In order for them, there's so much about this deal that was going to be interesting. One of the main things I was looking for is like, what is that first year number going to be? Because if that first year number, if he got the 40% raise, but the 40% raise was on 30 to 35 million, then that dude's still a trade target until July 1st. At 42 million in this economy, he ain't moving this year. He's going to play for the Jazz, and he's going to play for them for a little bit. I'm interested to see like the full details. I know we've seen it's going to be 42. He's going to go to the max number in the first year, which they could do. They had the cap space. It'll be interesting to see when we get all the details. I know there's no options in it, but I'm curious if it's going to be like flattened or decrease on the back end, because they're clearly going to create some value on the back end. Those are going to be the years where he becomes a trade option again when the salary cap goes up. But they have clearly invested in him in the short term for a little bit longer than just a year. So they're going to try to do something this year.
I think fans and like NBA media who are just tear it down, bottom out, tank. I think they go to that line of thinking too much. And, that's part of why they gave Lauri Markkanen a raise, an extension. He's like a reason for their fans to go to the games. He makes them respectable. I don't think people are realistic all the time, especially in smaller markets, about just bottom out. Because there's no, it's like it takes all the enthusiasm out of your fan base, all the air out of the balloon. Like why should people pay for tickets? Like what's the point? If like, are we going there to just watch Jordan Clarkson and that's it? It's like, you got to have a reason to want to be in the building, even if you're not a championship contender. And look, man, there's just no guarantee. Like, look at the Pistons. They've been in the wilderness forever. You can just be in the wilderness for a long, long time. You need a lot of luck. You need to be the freaking Spurs and bottom out and get Victor Wembanyama. God, the freaking Spurs.
Again, they bottomed out that one time again, and they got the guy.
Insane.
Ugh. Them and the damn Thunder, man. It's going to get under my skin my entire life. Those two franchises are just going to bother me eternally.
Yeah, the smartest thing, I don't know, not the smartest thing, but the Thunder making that trade and getting back Shea and realizing like, okay, this guy has a lot of room to grow, and they probably didn't even realize how good he could have been at the time. But I love unloading the star, yes, for draft capital, but like for a young player who's pretty good and has the chance to get a lot better. Like I just, he's just a little more of like a known quantity than just a draft pick. Like a lot of times the draft picks, it's such a crapshoot. It never works out the way you think a lot of the time.
Just gonna be the most spoiled fan base. We were so close. I wanted one good test for that fan base. I wanted them to suck one year too many and just see how it felt. Because there have been so many times where we've had like a B+ roster and we get a D+ result because of injuries and luck and odd system. We're literally antithetical in our histories, and it drives me absolutely insane because we've had to go through every ounce of suffering, and right when they almost did, jump to first place.
You know what the Pelicans have that the Thunder don't have, at least right now?
A curse.
An over-the-air TV deal.
Yeah! There we go. We got and unlike myself in college, they learned that when you have the instinct to break up with your girlfriend, don't let her talk you out of it. They learned their lesson with Diamond Sports, and I did not learn my lesson freshman year.
All right, Adam, get ready to learn Bounce TV, buddy. Big changes coming on the Pelicans broadcast front. We've been all over the story for like literally years, and I was happy to see this. I think this is overall going to be a positive.
Hell yeah. It was the right move. Everybody's even the people that were like the most annoyed locally are going to be happy about the outcome. It's like I said, it's going to have its growing pains. There's work to be done. The streamer is not going to be close, but that is the intended direction. We're going there. For what it's worth, the typically slow moving Pelicans have moved a little bit faster than some other teams. So they get to brag for a minute. So like, let's let them have it. They don't get a ton of credit. Like don't open the fire hose the whole way, but like your garden hose, you like wet the plants a little.
I think there's going to be some news on training camp pretty soon. I think the schedule is going to come out next week. We're going to be ramping up. The season's going to be here before we know it. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.